Karen Eber Davis, and I work with nonprofit organizations, helping them with their income and growth. I like to help CEOs be able to focus on their mission and put income growth to the side. One of the things that's fun about me is I had a chance to work with the Division of Cultural Affairs long ago, and I was their first internal auditor, and it was a fascinating job. I was out, and you probably don't, they're using some of the same audit things now, but I would go visit people who had never been audited by the state in a number of years, and they'd been receiving money. It's fascinating jobs, and got to meet many, many nonprofits across the state. Martine, share who you are.
Yes, I'm Martine Collier. I'm the Executive Director of the Arts Council of Hillsborough County. I've been in the position since 2017. I previously was the President and CEO of a regional organization in Dayton, Ohio for 6 years. And prior to that, I worked in Seattle at Grant Makers for the Arts. And that's the cohort organization of all the major national funders. And I happened to be working there during the last recession, and it was fascinating times, and some interesting things happened on a funding level that I think can be replicated in our current crisis.
And with that, I'm going to start our slideshow here with a PowerPoint with you. And there's our title slide. And I start with an article from the Chronicle of Philanthropy recently. And they had reported on a survey that the Nonprofit Finance Foundation had done recently with 500 nonprofits. And they said that 60% of the nonprofits were having destabilizing conditions in financially. 50% saw a reduction in donation, and 75% saw earned revenue go down. And those are dire statistics. Concern? I'm getting feedback here, so I can reduce my volume, see if that works. But what raised the question for me when I saw that was, well, okay, if 60% are destabilized and seeing bad conditions, what about the 40% who were seeing the same conditions or better conditions? How about people, 50% of the donations going down? How about the 50% of the donations that have actually increased? And then same thing with the earned revenue, 75% down, but 25% income. So increasing or the same. We don't know. I haven't looked at the survey. I haven't talked to people, but it does raise the question about how some people are finding ways through this that may at least lead them in a better place than deterioration. That's what we're going to talk about today. So the goal here is, the goal, as you've seen in the publicity, is to explore your possibilities. And my challenge to you would be to pick one thing you'll use in your organization or personally or somehow from spending the time here. So make your investment worthwhile. Look for what one thing is that you will do. Of course, hopefully there's more, but we'll settle with one. I'll be asking about those. This will be a participatory conversation. And a couple other things. It was designed primarily for organizations, but if you are an individual artist, you'll see benefit on it. The techniques and skills I'm sharing are overview skills, not so much down in the trenches, but the idea is how to think about what we're facing in ways that allow you to use innovation in your nonprofit or organization or lives. So let's see if there's any, I have a few of the notes here I'm looking at. I think that's it. So that's the goal. And here's our agenda. First, I want to celebrate your breakthroughs, things that are working in the field. Next, we're going to talk about the pitfalls to avoid that I learned from the Great Recession and some research I did then. Risk, how to look at risk and opportunities in the new normal. And then we'll look at your next steps. We have about an hour, and we're going to get started right now on more of that content. First is congratulations to you. Many of you have found ways to offer your art and cultural opportunities through, even with social distancing. This is from the Arts Council website. I picked this up and it lists some. I'm sure Eileen would like to know more. Shake your head, Eileen, of what you're doing, so we can be sharing that. And we're finding ways to bring art and culture to people who are in our community, even if we can't get together now. Also, we're learning new ways to do things, some of which will be useful in the future. So you've been at this for, I don't know how long you've been quarantined. I've been about 6 weeks, I think. It feels like 6 months, a long time. And in that time, you've probably thought of some things and are doing some things that you've done that you recommend that your peers consider that are replicable, that could be done elsewhere. And so I would like to invite you to participate in this by using the chat box. To find that, you bring your mouse down into your lower part of your screen, and there'll be a chat, and share one action you've done that you would like to kind of brag about with other people. So let's go ahead and do that now. And Martine is going to read some of those to us. I'm seeing the chat box blink.
Okay, so Kathy Durden says, Zoom, managing my time and focusing on virtual events.
Okay, Kathy, thank you very much. Three answers from Kathy. Virtual events. Interesting.
And Major, there's a chat box at the bottom of the screen. He's looking for the chat box. Kim Straub says, Community Heroes program in Temple Terrace.
Okay, Kim, would you be willing to share with us more about that? Can you unmute yourself and talk to us? See if this works. What you're doing?
Try unmuting yourself, Kim.
Or if you want to, you can put in the chat box what that is.
Well, while we're waiting for Kim, Jerry Bickle says he is delivering weekly art activities to our audience that we usually send to teachers. And
Great.
Carla Hartley says Stageworks has been posting pre-recorded bits of art and lessons from our teaching artists. Major MacDaddy says Stood Up Florida Art Center for Military and Veterans. And Teresa Gonzalez says Community Stepping Stone staff is delivering food to families of our participants 3 times a week and art projects to the children once a week.
Ah, so we get food and art.
Erin Blankenship says it isn't giving me any audio options. Can you help with that, Karen?
We can try. I don't know. This is how we all learn together.
So I'm gonna, while we're figuring that out, Trevor Keller said Zoom board meetings for Theater Tampa Bay promoting other arts online creative outreach.
Okay, so one of the things I think about Zoom is some of us will consider doing board meetings in the future that way. Maybe not all your board meetings, but it will allow you to recruit more board members because it's less time. They don't have to drive back and forth. You may not do all your board meetings. In fact, I don't think you want to, but some of them you may do that way. Now, I've auto accepted all requests, so I see if you can try again. If you can, particularly, I know. This is where we learn together. Anyone who knows Zoom and knows how to do it in the webinar, let me know.
So I did want to keep reading these because there's some great information here. Tampa International Gay and Lesbian Film Festival is speeding up the adaptation of technology for virtual screenings. Kim Dolman says, Creative Clay has paintings for sale online now, exclamation point. We also have been connecting with our artists via Zoom and participating in St. Petersburg Arts Alliance Second Saturday Art Walk virtually, about to launch our virtual classes to serve our member artists with disabilities.
Oh, great ideas. I think we can do too is we can capture the chat and send these to you and we're not going to promise, we're going to try to capture the chat and allow you to be able to connect with each other and say, tell me more about that idea to do this.
And Major MacDaddy says, First Center in the state of Florida. Erin Blankenship again, the Florida Holocaust Museum is hosting drop-in activities Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday each week on social media. We offer content and do a live Q&A with the content, survivor testimonies, artifact features, and teacher resources. Oh, and I hear back from Kim. She doesn't get the microphone going, but we hear from her in chat. It is a free program where we are repurposing disinfected political signs for residents to decorate and applaud workers who provide safety, nourishment, and comfort, such as grocers and first responders.
Wow, that's very creative. Great.
Erin says we are also offering our resources to teachers to use in their virtual classrooms, such as lessons and discussions with Holocaust survivors.
Super. I've seen more come in, so I'm hesitant to move, but we can. Okay. Keep adding that to the chat. Again, we'll try to, I'm sorry.
One final thing from Kim. People email if they want to participate. We deliver a sign, they decorate it. We have 80 participants. That's in the program she was talking about to applaud grocers and first responders.
Wow, that's great. And that's quick. That's quick thinking and quick moving. So again, keep those ideas. You can keep throwing them into the chat box. We will, and I apologize for not figuring out the technology to let you respond back to explain some of those, because there's fascinating ideas. I'd like to know more about a number of them.
Oh, a couple more before Nancy Lorenza from the Tampa Metropolitan Youth Orchestra sending newsletter every Monday evening when we would normally be rehearsing to musicians' families, encouraging students to submit videos of their playing and then sharing those performances through the newsletter. And just a moment, Major McDaddy said, mission that provide alternative therapies for military, vet, first responder, and families through art, mental health, and educational programs. He also asked if we would slow down a little bit.
Okay. I'm excited about all the ideas. This will be recorded and it'll be available to you if you want to catch this part of it again too. So we'll try to make that really user-friendly.
Oh, one last one. It appears Kara Dwyer says the Master Chorale has been holding rehearsals via Zoom with adapted programming for our current rostered singers. We're rolling out a community engagement series via Zoom of live stream recordings paired with choral music learning opportunities with sketch professional guests from the professional choral world. These events will be recorded and then posted through our YouTube channel for all to enjoy. More of information will be available soon.
I love the idea of rehearsing online. I would have never thought about doing that, but that's a cool way to do things. So there's many, many ideas that you're seeing both from your peers today here, as well as online. There is no shortage of innovative ideas to adapt and look at. I always look at creativity as no one ever did it before, and that innovation is taking another existing idea and like making it fit your world. So thank you for sharing all those. I want to know more about them. I want more time so I can do some of them. I want to skip now into the research I did after the Great Recession. I interviewed about 15 Tampa Bay area and Sarasota area CEOs and said, how did it go? How was this? How did you get through? This is about 5 years after the recession. And in it, I found three patterns. There were groups who had really failed to come out of it. In fact, one of the 15 has since closed their doors, and they were in definitely worse shape than before the Great Recession. A second group was really, even after 5 years, what I call still in the clouds. They were better. They had a lot of things on the plate. They thought they were going to be better, but they weren't really there yet. They were still pretty confused and unsure whether they had really weathered the storm like they would have liked to. And then there's this third group, and they were either at or better than where they were at before. And of course, just like I looked at those statistics earlier in the program, and the question is what did they do? And that's what I want to share with you now. This is a framework for what the Sunshine Groups did. several things that I've listed there. One is vision. They developed a vision not only for getting through, but how things would be better afterwards and what that might look like. So that vision is when things are really tough to remember you're going someplace better. And so if you haven't casted a vision for yourself, for your gallery, for your organization, consider doing that. Ask how could be the best that could come out of this? How can we be stronger? What would that look like? It doesn't solve necessarily that you're really hurting today, but it helps you to say this is not forever. And that's really helpful to be a strong organization. And I think you will see, and you see pictures of visions, people are talking about when things are better, when we're back to normal or the new normal again, and what we're going to do in that. You'll start seeing that from leaders and other people as well as yourselves. You can create that vision by having conversations like this. You can take the same ideas here and share this with your board and staff and say, what have we seen that's working? What are some things that we're doing that could be better? The other thing that they did is they acted. They just didn't put their head in the sand like an ostrich, but they decided to act and take motion. One group in particular did very well. They had in their strategy work to do individual donor work and marketing, and they continued to do that, and they were actually one of the groups that was better. Other groups took this time, the Great Recession time, to do innovation. One group began a hospital without walls. Things that would not have been acceptable or okay in regular times were now acceptable. So this is that invitation to innovate. This is a time perhaps to put some things away that are not working for you very well and have an elegant way to leave some programming or activities that aren't doing as well as your stars are doing. They work to retain staff, and this was, of course, a challenge now, but here's a framework. I wrote down the person's name because I wanted to remember it. Stephen Koch with Big Brothers Big Sisters. He decided that he was going to reduce his staff, and not reduce his staff, but reduce everyone's salaries, and he did this in solid chunks, thereby keeping his staff. If you aren't able to do that, very much consider this last point, resist cutting your ability to make income. That being able to make money is really critical. The story is locally, one of the nonprofits recently, the board decided to cut everything down and put staff to go file for benefits. We're done. And basically they closed down the organization. At the same time, they had a plan to get back. The staff had already had a plan what they were going to do next. So there's this conflict between the fear and we can put this back together again. How do we hold on? So working on that as one of your key things is important. If you can't retain staff, keeping in touch with staff is helpful because you want them to be ready to come back and work when you can afford them to come back. Another piece of this research was that they had a picnic basket mindset. And what I mean by that is they were able to take events and activities that they did, fold them up and move them. So they looked for things that were low cost. They did low cost things. They might do events at their site that they could do a small number. And if it didn't work, they could put the wine and the cheese, put the wine in the boxes and the cheese in the refrigerator and roll it forward. And the ability to be flexible and retract as needed. So instead of doing it for hundreds, they maybe do it for 10 people. So that ability to get bigger and get smaller and remain flexible was real critical. And the last key point was they built relationships, and they continued to realize that their supporters, their donors, their funders all needed to know what was happening, where they were at, and what their plans were, and that they did have this vision plan for coming back. So that was what I found and wanted to share with you as the goal obviously is to come through in the sunshine. And that's what I saw a number of years ago. Switching now is one of the tools and techniques is how to deal with risk. There's 3 characteristics of risk. There's the likelihood something's going to happen. There's the seriousness. And then what you want to do with that is think about how you can mitigate the seriousness. So it's very likely we're going to have some more time that we're going to be needing to be wearing masks. But is that serious? Probably not. That wearing masks seems to be something we can learn how to do. And the same thing, it's likely that we'll be walking into buildings and having our temperature taken. Is that serious? I mean, is that likely? I think yes. Is it serious? I don't think so. But other things that happen would be very serious. And so what I've done with Eileen's help and staff's help is we created and picked out some things that we thought were places that you might want to be thinking about that could happen, that are risk scenarios. And the first one is about rebounding. This is the idea that we go out and we're told to go out, we go out again, but we have to come back in again. The second one is social distance rules could last for, and I had forever at first, and I said, okay, 3 years, that's long enough, but for a long time, that we're going to have to not go to huge galas, that we can't go to theaters and sit close with each other, that we're going to have those kinds of keeping at social distances for a long time. Another one is that this time will be followed by another Great Depression or something like it, like 1929, that's much serious than the recession, that will have long-term economic challenges. Another one is that no large gala-like gatherings. So this is different than the social distancing. This is like we're not going to ever be able to do that model again. That may go away. And then a more personal is that your site or your gallery or someplace where you work gets contaminated, i.e. you do have a gathering and everybody gets sick who goes at it, and it's this massive bad PR thing as well as people getting sick, which is terrible in and of itself. So those were some of the risks. What I want to ask you to do is do a survey now, and if I can find it and figure out how to do that, and I'm going to ask you how likely you think those things are in the next coming time period. And I'm trying to, okay, polling, here you go. So this will be a poll. I'm going to launch the poll. You should see this. Which of the following do you feel are likely to happen? And you should be able to choose this by multiple choice. And you can say more than one. Where I'm at, about half of you have voted. I'll give it another 15 seconds or so. Very close. Okay, ending poll, and if this works, you should be able to see this. Do you see it? Yeah. Okay. So the reason I did this is because you all are reading and listening and thinking about different things. And this is probably a very accurate depiction of what's coming. It's sort of that group sourcing, everything you've read and thought about, you're putting into this poll. So the numbers we had there in terms of likelihood was rebound, and I'm writing these down because I'm going to use them in a minute, is 72, social distance, 55, 31, 34, and 24. So what I want to do here is get rid of that and come in here and put these numbers here. This was 72, whoops. Social distancing was 55. Great Depression, that encourages me, only 31%. 34, no large gatherings, and your site getting contaminated was 24. Okay, so in the chat, I'd like to know, and we'll have to figure out some way to divide this in a minute, how serious, if we rebound again, would that be at your organization or for you in terms of the 1 to 10 scale? So this is going to be 7.2. Team, are you seeing any answers there?
Not yet. I think
okay.
Everybody's typing.
Okay, so 1 to 10 scale, I'll give the instructions again. 1 to 10 scale, 1 being low. If we rebound and have to close again, how serious would that be for you? Now I see.
Okay, now we're getting numbers. Carla Hartley says it would be 7. Kathy Durden says it would be 7. Cindy Dornblazer says, and she did that to all panelists, so I guess we can all see this. Maybe I don't need to read that one, but she said it was a 10. Jerry Bickle said a 10. Island Stone said a 9. Aaron Blankenship, 7. Zora Carrier, 7. Amy Allison, 7. Therese Gonzalez, 7. Trevor Keller, 7. Nora Payne, rebounding, she said would be a 7. Rob Atkins said a 9. Joyce Cotton said a 7. Christine Smith, an 8.
So I'm going to call it at that, Martine. We get the idea. I'm doing 7.5. I heard mostly 7s and then some 8s and higher numbers. So you'd have your own number for your organization. I'm going to have you stop doing that one because I want to go to the next one and ask you about that. But I'm going to hesitate. I see it stop blinking. So let's start again. Social distance, same question. On the 1 to 10 scale, is social distancing is permanent?
So I'm not going to read it out because everyone's doing it to all panelists, but
I can't see it. So tell me what I should type in here. Give me
Okay,
the idea.
okay.
What numbers? Give me your best guess of the average.
So we've got a lot of 10s, we've got 9s, we've got 8s. The lowest we have is a 5, but we've got quite a few 9s for that.
We do 9 on that one?
I think that would be a rough average. That's most common is 9, and we even have a 10 on it.
This is a model you want to look at and use in your own organization. This is a great conversation for your board. What should be in the risk category and your seriousness and likelihood. I think this is interesting that 30-some people have this on this number, but I think that the seriousness is more individual. Okay. Next question, Great Depression, same question, 1 to 10 scale. How serious would that be?
Ten, 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 10, 9. 10 is definitely, I think would be what is represented.
Okay, so I'm going to call that a 10. No large gala-like gatherings for a long time. So I'm starting. This is starting over. Okay, it's slowed down. Okay.
7, 5, 8, 6, 7, 8, 5, 5, 6, 5, 3. So I'm thinking that's around somewhere between a 5 and a 6.
Okay, you call it 5.5. And then your site gets contaminated. So starting over again.
Ten, 10, 10, 5, 7. One response, we use many sites, so assuming all of them are contaminated, 10, 10, 8, 5. So that looks like around not 8.5 to 9, I think.
Okay. So again, this is a quick, and your setting might be very different. This might be a definite 10 or it might be a 1 because no one ever comes to your setting, you go to them. So that obviously is individual. So what I'm seeing here, because we're going to be concerned about the likelihood, but the seriousness is the key factor. So if lightning strikes, we have insurance for that. If we have a fire, it's really serious. It may not be very likely, but it's very serious. And what you've told me here would be this one, as would be one of the key things you'd want to mitigate against. And then the second one would be this one. Your site gets contaminated. So the mitigation, with that knowledge, you can begin to focus on, okay, how do we make a plan for if your site gets contaminated? This is what I want to choose first because it's easier to me. It seems to me that you would want to make sure you follow health guidelines, you know, and good cleaning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and that you're careful about enforcing and encouraging people to follow social distancing, all the rules that we have. So this again is where the planning comes in. You move from, okay, what should we focus on? There's so much going on. How do we know what to do? To, okay, this is what we want to plan for. The benefit of that is if you plan for this, it often helps you at other places. So the Great Recession, the Great Depression concern, thankfully we don't think it's very likely as a group, 3.1, but it's huge in terms of how it will be serious for us, argues that we want to be thinking about perhaps low-cost ways to provide art to the community through a Great Depression. One of the beauties of digital use is it's like the Netflix model. How for less than $10 a month they will send me a red disc, or let you for less than $10 a month watch endless shows, really shows us that digital use can be very, very expensive and a useful tool. So I will leave this there, but I'll also breathe and stop and ask if there's any questions, which you can put in the question box. There's a Q&A box over towards the center of your screen to the left. I will add too, I use this tool whenever I start getting like overwhelmed and anxious, and there's so many things, how can I figure out what to focus on? Encourage you, if you start feeling your staff is anxious or you're anxious about all the possibilities, this is a great tool to use. It points out where to focus your energy. So any questions?
Can we get a copy of this PowerPoint?
Yes. Okay.
And also there's a recording, correct?
Correct. You can have it two ways. Okay. This is another place I want to go to. This is more about the innovation piece of this. So theoretically, we recognize in the skill, you recognize you can talk to your peers and look at people and find other ideas from other people, that they're all out there. There's this river of ideas floating by us, especially now. You can look in and dig and pick through and do that and grab from things. You can look at the risks so you can figure out where to focus your energy. And then there's this whole, how do we innovate? So how do we embrace these opportunities? Despite all the terrible things that are happening, there's really interesting things happening that begin to be opportunities. And to evaluate them and evaluate opportunities, you would want to look at their impact. Does it help you do your mission? Is it profitable? Do you break even at the very, very least? Or can you actually make revenue and have revenue go back into your organization to support other things that aren't profitable? Those are all things to look at. And then can we do innovation here? So what is the innovation? And that's where I want to jump next. And this is back to using the chat box again, because I want to ask you what advantages you see possibly coming out of this whole COVID-19 experiences. It could be activities, it could be relationships, it could be how you operate, it could be system-wide, it could be cultural or beyond. And to do that, I've created this sheet, and I'll be dropping in ideas that you're going to share in the chat box of things that you see. And the first one I want to put there as a primer is increasing discussions about estate planning. There was an article recently that talked about estate lawyers who do estates having a 10% increase in business. And this is part of the great people in hospitals being concerned about their children and their family. They were literally out signing wills in parking lots in the back of trucks because people were very anxious. So if you have not done any planned giving and requesting in your organization for planned gifts, it's certainly going to be something on people's minds. There's never been in my lifetime a time when so many people will be thinking about planned gifts. And therefore, I encourage you, if you are an organization, to be saying to people, remember us in your will every time you can, not in an obnoxious way, but every newsletter that goes out should have a remember us in our will, other lines about we do accept estate gifts, and we would love to have you remember us and make you one of our Legacy Society members. So that's what I have, and I'm seeing the chat box come up.
So Kathy Durden is saying increase focus on innovation, virtual offerings, etc.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, for being number one. Other ideas, things that you see as advantages coming out of this, the silver linings.
So Karen, what you said earlier about maybe even this would lead to more board meetings being virtual, maybe not all. Do you think this could possibly, having weathered a crisis, lead to a deeper relationship with your board members or donors? I'm just wondering if you saw that as part of, because you've gone through it together and you've weathered it, does it maybe increase relationship building with your board? I'm just suggesting.
No, I think that's a great possibility. To me, the opportunity is to say to your board, we need you more than ever. We need you to be strategic. We need you to put your best thinking caps on. This will be our finest hour. It's very much World War II, Winston Churchill kind of calling forth the troops to say, hey, you know, this is why we asked you to be our board member. So it's time to affirm them and to go on that journey together. Thank you, Martine. That's great.
So Erin Blankenship says for our staff, we've actually seen an improvement in communication now that we are working virtually. I think I would say that with the Arts Council staff as well, in that we tend to communicate more times during the day face to face and less, than when you're just sitting close together in an office. So I think Erin's comment is certainly, I can validate. Zora Carrier says, and this is such a key thing for anybody, flexibility. Any individuals and organizations, we all need to be more flexible. So that's a good one.
Yeah, we're using our flexibility muscle very well.
And Rob Atkins mentioned before moving to a more data-driven film festival while offering virtual screenings, entertainment, in addition to a live film festival. So, I see from the virtual standpoint, because we have some transportation and parking issues in this community, that these opportunities might attract even new people to the virtual offerings. Jerry Bickles says using pre-existing digital material, repackaging, and used for paid content.
Oh yeah, so leveraging what you got.
And I love this one from Christine Smith. It will be a true test of our constituents' interest in and dedication to our organization.
So people who really care about you are going to stand up and be pushing for you.
Strengthening existing partnerships, says Teresa Gonzalez. And Cindy Dornblaser says more original programming that we can stream without having to pay rights.
It could be a cost saving. Okay.
So I want to remind those folks, a couple of people are raising their hands. I'm not sure how good my technology is, but if you would put your questions in the Q&A, we'll make sure that we get your questions answered. And going back to things for the bucks, Deborah Campbell mentions creative promotional materials, virtual tours, online learning experiences.
Creative promotional materials.
Virtual tours, online learning experiences. And
And
this
the
was
person
interesting. Hmm?
okay, I'm going to say the person who said strengthening existing partnerships, could you tell us more about that? I'm sorry, I forgot your name already.
That was Teresa.
Teresa, can you tell us more about that in the chat box? One of the ones I had that I've been noted in another group was that we're into people's homes now, and there's an intimacy that we might have held up against, so it changes a little bit, as well as there's value in authenticity.
Well, here's a good one from Amy Allison. Able to see where wasted energy lies and causes us to refocus our efforts on what's truly working.
Find and focus on what's truly working. I'd love to know the story behind some of that.
And Major Mac Daddy said, unifying the organization as one voice.
So maybe less confusion to the people who are listening to that voice.
And possibly more focus. Also from Teresa, making sure to keep in touch with our partners to see how we can brainstorm and come up with innovative ideas to work together in Sulphur Springs community.
Okay, so that's strengthening existing partnership by connecting and brainstorming how to work better together. You all get to see my typos. Talk about authenticity. You got it. I want to add one that you haven't added is missing. We miss each other. And there's, I'll talk about that in a little bit, about how important it is that we connect. And there's the whole conversation. One of my friends who's a consultant psychologist in the area, she said, you know, Zoom does certain things, but the research shows it's not going to be enough. And the whole sense that when we get back together with people, we really will value being with them on a different level we didn't appreciate. Going once. So many opportunities that all these could be looked at and say, how can we use these to innovate? You know, where are we going to do things? You know, original streams, not having to pay rights for things, repackaging content, exploring the virtual world, doing things like virtual tours. We keep that, but there's all kinds of ways that we'll find. Some of them will work and some of them won't. But there's a whole, obviously, the new world coming that we are beginning to see as leaders and visionary leaders and seeing what's ahead. And these things are some of our like ace in the hole kind of things to build on. So I want to share a handful of ideas that caught our eyes. And actually, there's the things that caught Eileen's eyes that she shared with us. And this is back to, we started with ideas that other people have. We looked at risks. We looked at some of the innovation tools that the things that are happening that are silver linings that we will be able to use and use in our innovation. This is really more like practical tidbit ideas. So these first set of ideas, there's about 3 of these, is don't let them forget you ideas. One of the concerns, people are so busy, have so much on their minds, you don't want them to forget you. You want to remember that they're part of your life and that if they can't do anything, being there with them. Letting them know you're still there and you plan to be here after this, and you plan not to give up, this flag and run home and not exist anymore, but you want to be here and let them know this. So this is a couple of ideas. This is an email bounce. You've probably already had a chance to look at it. What I liked about it is it gave options 3 ways, not just help us, but here's 3 ways you can. Giving people choices. It's a choice of yeses, which is a really lovely way to do almost any offer you have. You want the people to think mentally, yes, I want to help, and then how do I want to help versus do I want to help or not? So getting off that binary choice of yes or no, help them. Well, how can I help them? And this is an email bounce back that shows that. A second one is Florida Aquarium is doing a daily live stream. And then I kind of took this idea and said, okay, could you do this at your site? You have essential staff on site. Do they have a selfie stick? Could they do a 1-minute live video? Okay, I'm here from whatever your organization is, and I just want to let you know we're here. We're thinking about you. I'm backstage. Or here's the exhibit. Here's the upcoming activity we got planned. Or here's how you can get involved. Again, a daily touch, a personal touch. Again, back to the authenticity. It doesn't have to be this personal, perfect professional, but getting out there. Don't forget us. We're here. We're thinking about you. We want to let you know we're here and connect with you. And another one is Sue is the mascot of the Chicago Field Museum. And if all goes well, this is a 14-second video I will show you. Hope this is working. Yay. So Sue is running around the Chicago Film Museum, and this has had like 1 million hits. I mean, there's a number of these. So you could do something like this. It takes imagination, a phone camera, a videographer, and a mascot or something else. And probably, since this was 14 seconds, about 10 minutes of filming. So you can keep your social distance, get that done, and create multiple times that you can come on and share something like this. So 3 ideas of how to keep connected. And then this is back to the concept of coming soon. This is a quote from the Wall Street Journal and the concept about sending oxytocin through us that will last a long time, something you want to catch with people. When I went the other day, I heard the mailman driving his truck by my house, and I had my little red Netflix envelope to bring out to the mailbox. I hadn't gotten it out. And so he was coming into my house with a package. And I opened the door, and the mailman jumped back 6 feet like I was totally contaminated. And I reached my hand out, and I said, would you take my envelope, please? And he said, oh, yes. And he took it from the far end, didn't contaminate himself, put the box down, and then left. And we said, have a good day. Talk to you later. And I was like so charmed by this mailman. That's almost embarrassing how much that would warm my heart. And that's oxytocin running through my system for a new contact and a new relationship. And you want your donors, when the doors open here, to have, especially your donors, people who are most dear to you, to have that experience with you. And so this next idea is not from an arts and cultural organization, I don't think, unless you count beer. Local brewery, but a local brewery has put this back to normal party out, and it's got 85 people saying they're going and 729 people who are interested in going. My recommendation is to be thinking about a retractable event for a small group, perhaps outdoors. Perhaps you have, again, that wine and pre-wrapped cheese and individual crackers wrapped from Costco or something. And maybe you have to wear a mask and gloves and have wipes available. But when you get together, you consider a gratitude, sharing gratitude that you are together, your new vision for this, and some small piece of your art and culture. So again, something to be thinking about, planning, and getting ready for. Again, fold out, may not be able to put it in place for a long time, but to be ready and to think about how you could be doing that. So we're at the point of questions and reviewing this, and then Martine is going to give us an update of the Arts Council activities. So do we have any questions? I see 4 in the box. Are they?
Okay, we do have some questions. Kim Straub would like to know new ways to use technology.
Kim, do you want to give me a little bit more than that? Because you've heard a lot of different ways to use technology here.
Wait, that may be, I'm sorry, I think I'm getting, that was one of the things that she saw came positively.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm
That
sorry.
is- yeah.
But I do have a question from Trevor Kelly. How can you do this when people don't have the money to pay bills and eat? I would like to mention that there are a lot of opportunities that the Arts Council is consistently posting for funding. A new one launched today through the Gobioff Foundation and the Venick Foundation, which is HARP for individual artists. And I strongly encourage, we are posting to the Arts Council things that Eileen and I are picking up from sessions with the NEA, sessions with the United Arts Fund for Americans for the Arts, that the 45 largest cities in the country are part of that, and we're one of those, from other sources, and we're trying to gather it all and put, so resources, we're trying to help connect you with webinars that are specifically about resources and giving all that information out there. Our topic today is a little bit different. We're really trying, this is more about thinking about innovation and preparing ourselves for when things open back up, because it's going to happen, and we just kind of getting our heads in the right place to be prepared for that and to be innovative as we approach that.
And do you want to share your quote about the hockey puck?
Well, I told Karen earlier, my favorite quote about being ready for change is not from an arts leader, it's from a sports leader, Wayne Gretzky, who said, "I skate to where the puck will be, not where it was." And that's so hard to do, to know what's coming out, but that is obviously the way you innovate and the way you've got to think, put some different thinking about things that you're addressing. But we are doing our best to keep you all completely informed about the funding options that are available. And then Major MacDaddy said we're planning a digital animation class for veterans. And Kim added, and she goes, "I was hoping to say that we are thinking we will have more in-kind ways to work with others versus cash donations." Someone, Nora asked, have you seen any resources for cleaning a space for COVID? It would be good to see a standard or best practices point. I haven't. Eileen, have you seen anything in that regard?
I really haven't. The only things I've seen are that you can use basically any normal cleaner, like, you know, Lysol, Clorox, anything typical.
Other than the CDC recommendations, I haven't seen anything, and they're pretty broad, but they do have some recommendations on the site.
I want to go back to Trevor's question too, and it's really a question. There's a part of our lives that we have to deal with the now, and that may be 99%. Hopefully it's not, but the real goal is that some piece of our life we start to work on what's coming next. Many nonprofits, if I can speak from that angle, are in constant crisis mode. This is just the newest one. And what I recommend when I work with them is to begin to form two teams. The first team deals with the current crisis, and the second team deals with what's next. And to have and create in your organization, in your life, in your head, some space for what's next is not only healing in the sense you begin to look for the forward and look for the vision, it's healing and it's smart because you don't want to be in crisis forever, whether it's COVID-19 induced or other financial or other issues. So having some balance and spending some time and to really try to work on what could be after is both healthy and useful.
So from Linda Ramirez, she wants to know if artists and creators are being surveyed to determine what opportunities they would like organizations to create. We've sent out a number of surveys, some of them specific to individual artists. Eileen, those are mostly posted on, you've sent those out as they've come in, correct?
Yes, we've sent out a couple surveys. They're mostly impact studies right now. So the Americans for the Arts is doing an impact study. The Hillsborough County / state of Florida is doing an impact study. These surveys are designed to help understand how organizations and artists are being financially mostly impacted by this right now.
And I would like to add that immediately following this webinar, you're all going to be receiving a survey specifically about this webinar, if it was helpful, other things that you would like for us to know, if other content similar to this could be helpful to you. We're taking that all into consideration to see if we need to offer more of these, or what is the best use of our resources to assist the organizations and the individual artists in the community.
Okay, so I'm going to move because we're going to be close to the hour here. I challenged you at first to think about what you would use in your organization. So if you please share what one thing you will do from this session today in the chat box.
Survey. Short and sweet.
Okay.
Also, we get new ideas, new people. Jerry Bickle's going to list his weekly e-blast on Arts Tampa Bay. Thank you, Jerry. We encourage you to do that. From Kathy Durden, more brainstorm. Tell us what you want, Kathy, when you fill out the survey. And vision moving forward and surveys from Trevor Kelly. Oh, Kara Dwyer likes skate to where the puck will be, not where it was. Kim Straub says unveil another community art project. The survey, particularly the brainstorming for what to do to mitigate the risk and thinking about opportunities. Christine Smith liked the quote too. Nora Payne once again brings up flexibility, which I think is so important. We all get so used to just doing things the way we've always done, but showing flexibility is essential to this. Teresa Gonzalez says 1 minute virtual update daily. Is something
that see that. Yeah.
And Kathy Durden says flexibility, that word again, connection and planning celebration.
Right. Thank you, and you can continue to put those in the chat. I want to go ahead and share with you this picture. This is actually Martine's door from like another life. This is her office door from December-ish, and I went in the meeting, and this is right after the Art Basel event took place with the selling of the banana that hit all the headlines. And I've written
Eileen decorated my door, but it was Joe's banana.
Okay. But I love the 3 tapes. They're just so artistically put up there. And I have a banana is a terrible thing to waste. The original quote was a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And as I was putting this together, I was feeling like, crisis, this is such a crisis that it doesn't feel right. But the banana is great because a banana was so small, and yet it was big enough to move all those headlines. And we all looked at and all talked about it, and how many conversations took place from a banana. So I offer you something small, maybe a small innovation that has the potential that you can do to get to this crisis that will leave you in a better place. And I challenge you to keep looking for those bananas. And thank you very much for attending. Hang tough. You've got great ideas. Put them to work. We'll get through this. So thank you very much.
Karen, one last comment that was just so great from Deborah Campbell, looking forward to opportunities, which is such an upbeat way to lead this discussion.
Yeah, and go find them. They're there, they're coming, and they're river them going by. Go get them. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you all.